A text message arrived on Catherine's phone just as dusk settled over her apartment. It was from her sister Charlotte. Mom and Dad's anniversary is next Saturday at Henderson Vineyard. We think it's best you don't come. No hard feelings.
Disinvited from my own parents' 40th anniversary.
On the wall behind her hung a family portrait, Charlotte beaming, their parents smiling, Catherine standing just slightly apart. Catherine moved to her desk and opened her laptop. The Henderson Vineyard website glowed on the screen.
Henderson Vineyard. That's the same place Henry Morrison is selling.
She pulled up the acquisition file. The closing date was circled in red, 2 days before the anniversary.
48 hours, I'll own the building where they're throwing their party.
She looked back at the text. No hard feelings, it said. A grim smile touched her lips.
Let them plan their little party. I'll be there, whether they like it or not.
The message hadn't come from nowhere. For years, Catherine had been the family's afterthought. Charlotte was the golden child. Every whim met applause, every failure cushioned by excuses. Their parents, Vivian and Robert, had long decided that keeping Charlotte happy was the family's main project.
Charlotte's planning the most exquisite anniversary for us. She has such an eye, doesn't she?
Robert rarely asked about Catherine's life. When he did, he soon returned to his newspaper. Catherine had built a successful real estate firm. Multi-million-dollar deals. Her parents never once visited her office. She bought and sold properties across the Hudson Valley. The Morrison Estate Winery was just another acquisition. But this one was personal.
Look at her, playing the devoted daughter. While I'm invisible.
The anniversary was just a symptom. The disease was that her family had written her out of the script years ago.
But I'm not just any forgotten daughter. I'm the one who buys the building.
The Tuesday before the anniversary, Catherine's phone rang. Her mother's voice was thin, almost rehearsed.
Darling, about the anniversary. Charlotte has been working so hard. She really wants it to be perfect.
And what does perfect mean, Mom?
She thinks, given how busy you are. It might be easier if you just send a nice card.
A card for my own parents' anniversary.
Even as they spoke, Charlotte was posting photos of the venue on her social feed, tagged Best Daughter Duties. Minutes after the call ended, a text from Charlotte made it brutally official.
No hard feelings. She actually wrote that.
The event page was pristine, full of cheery RSVPs. Catherine's name was nowhere.
They really went through with it, so I will just have to go through them.
The morning after, Catherine was already in her office. The Morrison file lay open, the closing date circled in red.
Henry Morrison is ready to sign. We just need to push the final wire transfer.
She drove up to the winery that afternoon. The autumn vines were golden.
Catherine, I'm glad it's you. This place needs someone who'll respect its bones.
I intend to keep it exactly as it is, Henry. Maybe add a few small touches.
Inside the office, Henry signed the final documents with a steady hand. Catherine countersigned. The deal was done. The winery would be hers on Thursday, 2 days before the anniversary.
Timing could not be more perfect. They have no idea.
Back at the office, she pinned the closing date on her board. The winery's event calendar still showed Saturday's booking, Charlotte's party.
They have no idea that I will be the one holding the keys.
Thursday morning, the wire transfer finalized with a soft electronic chime. In her office, Catherine signed the final deed, her signature sharp against the crisp paper. She drove to the winery under a gray sky. Henry Morrison was waiting at the door, a heavy ring of keys in his hand. He pressed them into her palm without ceremony. The winery, every beam and vine, was now hers. Back in her city office, she held the keys up to the window, the metal catching light. Then she set them on her desk. She opened her laptop and navigated to the event booking system. The Saturday reservation was still active. Delacroix 40th anniversary.
I could cancel it. One email and Charlotte's perfect party collapses. But that would be too easy. I want them to walk in and see me.
She closed the laptop without touching the reservation. The party would go on as planned. Her new business card sat on the desk. Catherine Delacroix, owner, Morrison Estate Winery.
48 hours, then they'll walk directly into my house.
On Friday, Catherine watched Charlotte's social feed from her office. Every post was a fresh sting, but also a fresh irony. She read the caption aloud, "Final touches for the perfect evening. So excited to host for Mom and Dad."
Hosting? She has no idea what hosting means.
Catherine called the winery manager and gave clear instructions. The booking remains. Staff is to treat her as the owner when she arrives. She went home and opened her closet. A navy dress, sharp and professional. Not a guest, but the host.
Welcome to Morrison Estate. I'm Catherine Delacroix, the owner. I hope you have a wonderful evening. If they still try to push me out, I'll just smile and remind them who signs the check for this building.
She printed the guest list from the booking system. Every aunt, uncle, and cousin who had RSVP'd to her exclusion was on it.
Aunt Gloria will be there. I wonder if she'll even look me in the eye tonight.
She set the guest list aside and placed the winery keys beside her phone. The countdown had begun. At the winery, Charlotte was in full command, waving a clipboard at the staff, her heels clicking against the stone floor. She fluffed a centerpiece, then checked her phone. Her last Instagram story showed the empty room tagged almost showtime. At the same moment, Catherine's black sedan glided to a stop at the winery's service entrance, tires crunching on gravel. She stepped out, her navy dress immaculate, and walked to the back door. The keys were cool in her hand.
Good evening. Everything running smoothly for the Delacroix event?
Inside, she briefed the manager in a corner. The staff would treat her as they always had, only now she signed their paychecks. She paused at the edge of the main room. Charlotte was 20 feet away, still arranging, her back turned. Then Catherine took her place at the main entrance, clipboard ready, as if she had always been the one opening that door. Outside, the first headlights swept across the vines. The anniversary guests were starting to arrive.
Now let's see who can look me in the eye.
Aunt Gloria and Uncle Joe were the first to arrive. When they saw Catherine at the door, they froze.
Gloria clutched her husband's arm. Is that Catherine? What is she doing here? Catherine smiled, offering a firm handshake. Aunt Gloria, Uncle Joe, welcome. I'm the owner of this winery. So glad you could celebrate with us tonight.
Gloria opened her mouth, but no sound came. As they moved inside, she leaned into Joe, her voice a harsh whisper.
Did Charlotte know about this? She told us Catherine wasn't invited.
Catherine greeted each new arrival with the same polished ease, marking their names on her clipboard.
Let them whisper. By tonight, everyone will know exactly who I am.
Inside, the first guests clustered near the bar, glancing back toward the entrance with wide eyes. The news spread like a current. Heads turned and turned again as more family members arrived.
Charlotte is still in there, oblivious. When she finally comes to the door, I'll be the first thing she sees.
Charlotte finally emerged, phone in hand, and froze. Catherine stood at the entrance, clipboard tucked professionally under her arm.
What are you doing here? You weren't invited. Get out.
I'm the new owner of Morrison Estate. This is my building.
Charlotte blinked, the words seeming to slide off some invisible wall. She took a step forward, voice rising.
You're lying. Henry Morrison has owned this place for 20 years. You're just jealous.
Call him. The deed was filed Thursday. I closed the deal 48 hours ago.
She pulled a crisp card from her blazer and held it out. The printed words glinted under the entry's chandelier. The blood drained from Charlotte's face. Her mouth moved, but she couldn't form a sound.
I won't cancel your party. I'll be here all evening as your host.
Charlotte's hands balled into fists. The beautiful room suddenly felt like a trap she had sprung on herself. The front door opened again. Vivian and Robert Delacroix stepped inside and stopped cold, their smiles vanishing.
What on earth? Catherine? You weren't supposed to be here.
Robert frowned. Charlotte, what's going on? I thought we discussed this.
Charlotte whirled toward them, her voice cracking. She's lying. She can't be the owner.
Catherine held up the business card again. I assure you I am. The property changed hands Thursday. I simply kept the reservation.
Vivian's hand flew to her chest. Robert looked from daughter to daughter, his face slack.
Mom, Dad, tell her to leave. This is my party. Charlotte's plea hung in the air, met by silence. We didn't know, Catherine. We thought it was best. Vivian's words trailed off.
I'm sure you did, but please, enjoy your anniversary. I'll be here if you need anything at all. Catherine smiled, and it didn't reach her eyes.
The parents moved toward Charlotte, their whispers swallowed by the growing murmur of the guests. The evening had already slipped beyond anyone's control. Before Catherine could move, Vivian clutched her arm, voice trembling. Darling, let's step outside and discuss this rationally.
Catherine, please. This isn't what it looks like. We wanted a smooth evening.
A smooth evening without me. They can't even pretend now.
She brushed off Vivian's hand, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet entryway.
Everyone, if I may have your attention, I'd like to offer a toast.
She walked to the bar, lifted a champagne flute, and the room fell into a brittle hush.
On behalf of Morrison Estate, welcome to my winery. Here's to 40 years of marriage. May the evening be as lovely as you planned.
Glasses rose uncertainly. The clinking was scattered, hesitant.
To Vivian and Robert.
She set down her glass and stepped back, her quiet retreat louder than any argument. Catherine walked the length of the room one last time, past aunts and uncles who looked away, her heels echoing on stone. She pushed through a door marked private, turning the lock behind her. The music dimmed to a murmur. In the main room, the silence was a living thing. Nobody wanted to be the first to speak. Charlotte sank into a seat, staring at her phone. The draft of her celebration speech still waited to be posted.
Vivian hovered over her, rubbing her shoulder. It's still a lovely party, sweetheart. Everyone's having a fine time.
Robert stood by the window, his face reflected in the dark glass. He couldn't remember the last time he'd chosen Catherine over Charlotte.
Catherine looked down at her keys. Let them squirm. I've said my piece.
The party limped on. Forks scraped. Wine was poured too carefully.
This was supposed to be my perfect night. She's stolen it without even raising her voice.
She opened her social app again. The draft of Perfect Evening sat there. She closed it without posting. The dinner plates had been cleared, but the atmosphere remained heavy, every conversation a careful negotiation. Charlotte stood, tapping her glass with a knife. The clink was small and timid, barely reaching the far tables.
Family, I just want to say thank you for being here. Mom and Dad, you deserve so much.
A few scattered claps came from the corners, then died. Vivian's smile was brittle as she stood to join her.
Yes. Thank you all. We're so blessed. Please, enjoy the dessert.
But guests were already glancing at their watches. Aunt Gloria muttered to Joe that it might be time to get on the road.
I can't. Let's go before we're forced to make small talk with Catherine's staff.
Charlotte saw them rising and her face tightened. She grabbed her phone, the draft still open, her thumb hovering over the post button.
If I post it now, everyone will know it's a lie. I can't.
She pressed the lock button and slid the phone into her clutch. The evening was bleeding away, and she couldn't stop it. The guests departed in hurried waves, their coats clutched tight. No one lingered for a nightcap or a farewell toast. Aunt Gloria brushed past Charlotte without a word, her husband trailing behind, their faces set in embarrassed lines. Vivian and Robert paused at the threshold, looking back toward the private hall, hoping perhaps for some last-minute mollification. But the door stayed closed. Through the small window of her office, Catherine saw the last guests shuffle past. She remained at her desk, unmoving. Robert took Vivian's arm, and they stepped out into the dark, leaving the half-empty room behind them. Alone now in the corner, Charlotte unlocked her phone and opened the draft. The eager caption stared back at her, hollow and impossible. She stared at it a long moment. Then she pressed delete. The screen blinked, and the post was gone, not even a record remaining. Catherine stepped out of her office. The room was silent, chairs pushed back, napkins discarded on the floor. She walked to the main entrance, drew the heavy key from her pocket, and turned it in the lock. The bolt slid home with a satisfying final click. Outside, the winery sign creaked in the wind. She was alone with her keys and the night. The next morning, Catherine turned the winery's sign to open. The soft click of the lock, a quiet punctuation mark. Staff arrived and greeted her as they always had, now with a new layer of respect. The tasting room came alive.
Good morning, Mrs. Henderson. The usual Chardonnay flight?
A couple celebrating their own anniversary arrived, and Catherine poured 2 glasses with a steady hand.
To 40 years, may your evening be exactly as you planned.
Her business card sat at the register, unassuming. A few guests glanced at it, but none connected it to the previous night. The phone rang with a supplier query, and Catherine answered smoothly, the winery's operations in her control. Outside, the vines rippled in the autumn sun. Life at the winery continued as if nothing had happened.
They thought they could erase me. Instead, I bought the building.
The open sign swung gently in the breeze, and Catherine turned to greet another guest. The day was hers. A week passed. Charlotte's Instagram went silent, frozen on a generic sunset photo posted the day before the party.
Even her brunch posts have stopped. She's completely retreated.
Meanwhile, a local lifestyle magazine ran a cover story on Morrison Estate's new owner, praising her savvy turnaround.
They call me a quiet force. If only they knew the noise I haven't made.
The tasting room hummed with life. Reservations doubled. The winery's reputation now carried Catherine's name. Under her ownership, the winery's bookings surged. That awkward anniversary party felt like a distant, sour note. Then, one idle Tuesday, her phone pinged with a notification. Charlotte Delacroix unfollowed you.
Unfollowing me won't undo the deed, Charlotte. Your party still happened in my building.
She locked the phone and returned to her desk. Outside, the winery stood, unmovable, against the autumn sky. When Catherine arrived for their father's birthday, the living room fell silent. She placed a bottle of her winery's best on the table.
Vivian avoided her eyes. Catherine, thank you for coming. We weren't sure you would.
Catherine gave a small smile. It's a family occasion. I wouldn't miss it.
Charlotte muttered from the corner, barely above a whisper. Some people have a lot of nerve showing up after everything.
Ignore it. She's just trying to provoke a reaction.
Robert cleared his throat loudly and raised his glass. The room turned to him with relief.
To family. The only thing that matters, really.
Catherine lifted her glass, catching her father's eye with a look that was at once forgiving and final. The clink of glasses was weak, scattered. Nobody mentioned the anniversary. The evening passed in stiff politeness. By the end, it was clear that night at the winery would remain a silent family fact. Years slid by. Morrison Estate became the family's default gathering place, its tasting room a quiet witness to birthdays and reconciliations. At one such reunion, a younger cousin finally asked the question that had hovered unspoken for years.
She'd been expecting this. It was a smart purchase at the right time.
And then she turned to pour another round, the conversation moving on as easily as the wine. The cousin accepted the glass, the moment already dissolving into the hum of family chatter.
That night I bought the building is just a footnote now.
She locked up alone as evening fell, the keys heavy and familiar. No one ever asked again. And in the house where she grew up, the old family portrait still hung on the wall, unchanged, except that now everyone knew who stood just slightly apart. The seasons cycled through Morrison Estate. Spring buds gave way to heavy clusters of grapes, then to the gold of autumn. The winery thrived under Catherine's hand. In the tasting room, she poured flights for strangers who now felt like friends. The awkward anniversary felt like a half-remembered dream. One morning, a wedding announcement appeared on Charlotte's social feed, a photo of her in a white dress, beaming beside a man no one in the family had met. Moving to Oregon, the caption read.
Catherine swiped past the post without comment. Some chapters closed themselves.
The winery remained her constant. That evening, after the staff had gone, she poured a single glass of the estate's reserve.
She raised the glass and spoke to the empty room, to buying the building.
She sipped, and a private smile touched her lips. That night had given her everything they never intended. The years rolled on, unremarkable. Charlotte moved to Oregon, posting only occasional photos of her new life. Vivian and Robert grew older, their home now holding a single new photograph. Catherine visited less often, but when she did, the winery's bottle was always on the table. No one ever mentioned the anniversary, and the portrait still hung on the wall, unchanged, except that now everyone knew exactly who held the keys. At a holiday dinner years later, the family gathered again in the familiar living room. Catherine sat with her coffee, listening to the chatter.
Aunt Gloria turned with a bright smile. Catherine, your winery was just beautiful that night. You really outdid yourself as host.
The room went still. Charlotte's hand paused over the cookie tray. The clinking stopped.
Vivian coughed into her napkin, a sharp, unnatural sound that didn't fool anyone.
Catherine smiled, steady. Thank you, Gloria. More coffee, anyone?
She rose to refill the carafe, and the spell broke. Chatter resumed, relieved around the edges of the table.
They still can't say it, but they know.
The evening unwound as if the comment had never been made. Catherine sat back and watched the family navigate their own careful silence. The portrait still hung over them, a silent witness to the unspoken rule. And in her pocket, the winery keys pressed lightly against her thigh, a small, constant reminder of the night she had bought the building. Before the evening ended, someone called for a family portrait. The photographer shuffled them into place. The arrangement was automatic. Parents in the middle, Charlotte beside them, Catherine at the edge.
The edge used to feel like a slight. Now it felt like a tower.
The photographer raised the camera. "Smile, everyone!" A flash flooded the room, freezing them in place. When the light faded, the image was the same as every other family portrait they'd ever taken. Except now, Catherine's smile was entirely her own. The picture would hang on the wall, a stitch in time telling no secrets. But anyone who looked closely would see the keys in her hand were never just a prop. She never mentioned the anniversary again, because the building already said everything. The years dissolved into memory, and that single evening became a story nobody told. Catherine went on owning the building, and the building went on owning the silence. She never mentioned it again, not at Christmas dinners, not at birthday toasts, not even when someone almost mentioned it. The family learned to live with the ghost of that anniversary, a specter that required no exorcism, just distance. When new members joined the family, they sensed something unspoken, a tension that clung to the winery's stone walls. And the portrait on the wall remained unchanged. Vivian, Robert, Charlotte, and Catherine, just slightly apart as always. The winery thrived, its reputation built on the quiet confidence of a woman who needed no apology. Catherine never needed to say it. The building had been saying it for years. And in the end, the only sound was the gentle pour of a new glass of wine.